Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Confirmed Epic Podcast, the official podcast of the epicreview.com and a companion podcast to the actionfigurebarbecue.blogspot.com. We're a place so cold currently in the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, we wish we had two suns like Tatooine here lately. I, of course, am the real Brad Bell. Joining me today, as always, is
Jerry Reed, also known as Barbecue 17.
And
Andrew Stokes, also known as Andrew Stokes.
okay, since we had such rave reviews and such good reception for reviewing Star Wars #1, the comic book, and we don't want to see Project Almanac or Jupiter Ascending.
I really want to see Jupiter Ascending.
I want to
That's
see it,
one
but I
person
obviously don't want to see
in
it too
America.
much, or I would have already seen it.
So instead of doing a movie review, we'll conclude with a review of Star Wars #2 by Jason Aaron. We'll also talk about what we've been checking out and any epic news items from the week. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys, on episode 36 of the Confirmed Epic Podcast. Jerry Reed, what have you been checking out?
Check checklist? Check. Double check checking of checklist? Check.
So the first thing I've been checking out this week, I just finished, was Tarkin, which is the new Star Wars book. It's the newest book that's now in the continuity, and
It's by James Luceno, right?
Yeah, by James Luceno. And so, Tarkin is just a really interesting character. Grand Moff Tarkin, Grand Moff Wilf Tarkin, his first name. So I finished reading the book. Really, it's pretty strong. It drags a little bit in the middle. It's one of the things that I've noticed about. I know you borrowed the New Dawn, which is the Rebels prequel, and you're kind of...
I'm dragging it. I'm about 50 pages in and one sitting and kind of put it down.
That book has mostly all new characters, particularly because it came out before Rebels. So this book, obviously has a lot of characters. There's a lot of great stuff to it. Lots of tie-ins to the Clone Wars. Lots of history about who Tarkin is. Characterization for Tarkin was really good. His relationship with Vader, his relationship with Sidious, Palpatine, relationship with a lot of the other officers that really had minimal time in the original film, or had appearances in Clone Wars. But it's a pretty simple story about an early group of rebels trying to cause some problems for the Empire, right after the end of the Clone Wars. But really, it's about Tarkin and his backstory and where he comes from, and how he becomes, the man that he is in the original film.
And this writer, James Luceno, this is the same guy, or James Luceno, rather, is the same guy who wrote Darth Plagueis, which kind of really got in depth at the Palpatine character. And I have not read Darth Plagueis, but I hear it's one of the best Star Wars Legends books that there is, and I want to read it.
Yeah, I haven't read it either, but I really like this one. Obviously, we talked about this in the last podcast because we've been talking so much about the Star Wars comic that when you're dealing with established characters, the challenge is really getting them to sound whether you're writing them as a comic or a novel, getting those characters to sound like their characterization of what you're most familiar with.
That's a lot of internal monologue, right?
And I really thought that the book Tarkin did a good job of giving a good voice to Tarkin and even Vader. There's some really interesting conversations between Tarkin and Vader where, they don't have an animosity between them, but Tarkin doesn't exactly know who Vader is at this point, but he really suspects that it's Anakin Skywalker, because in some of the Clone Wars episodes, Tarkin and Anakin met, and so they knew who. That
relationship begins to form right then in the Clone Wars, which is some of the best stuff of the Clone Wars.
And it's really, I really thought that Luceno's writing was really good, imagining these conversations between Vader and Tarkin they're working together. They're definitely the two people that the Emperor really I guess, relies on or uses the most heavily. But watching them, like, both in business and in kind of these personal conversations that happen.
Well, they're like the dichotomy of the Emperor's goals. Like, one's a political guy.
Yeah.
And military. Not that Vader isn't. And then Vader is the Force stuff, right?
Yeah,
the
Vader,
Jedi stuff.
They really do talk about that. I mean, a lot of people have always asked about, what exactly was Vader's role in the Empire, because it's very militarized. It's very based on like a ranking system and a hierarchy. And what exactly does Vader do? And this one kind of explains it. They do a lot to put to explain the structure of the Empire between, like I said, the end of the Clone Wars, so post Revenge of the Sith, and kind of leading up to the Rebels era or A New Hope.
Is it really political, the book?
Not really. There's, in all honesty, a lot of the politics are interesting. They come in short scenes, but like, the dignitaries at the end of in Return of the Jedi, when Palpatine shows up and he has those weird old guys with him. One of them even got an action figure in the old line, but they're these really strange-looking guys. And, like, they talk about what their role is. And so it's interesting to see a lot of these things kind of fleshed out, to have a better understanding of the Empire. To me, it was really interesting. It's definitely more interesting than the mining stuff in New Dawn, which I didn't mind. I thought it was an interesting book, and it set up the story. But it was interesting stuff about just how the Empire works.
Just thinking about this, and somebody brought up this point on a Star Wars podcast I listened to, the flagship Star Wars podcast, the Forcecast, and they were talking about when they first saw Grand Moff Tarkin for the first time in Episode 4, before they had seen the prequels, before the prequels were out, and this guy starts telling about the Senate's been dissolved, and this and that has happened. And, like, when you see Star Wars the first time, the original trilogy as a kid, like, you think X-Wings and TIE Fighters and lightsabers and all that cool stuff, right? And then this guy's, you go back and you watch it later, right? Maybe even still before you've seen the prequels, and this guy's talking about a galactic senate, and maybe you're more interested in thinking a little more about the politics. And then when you go back and actually see those political happenings in the prequel trilogy, it kind of makes that scene where you first see Grand Moff Tarkin in A New Hope, a little more impactful, meaningful. So he is a character that I know you love.
Yeah, I'm a big Tarkin fan.
But a lot of people kind of just dismiss. But he's an important character. I'm talking your run-of-the-mill Star Wars fan.
Maybe, because I'm
not big fans like us.
Tarkin's a pretty... Yeah, he's definitely one of the... I think Tarkin. I think he's that character. All the Star Wars films typically have an older actor who at least really cement things.
Yes.
And Peter Cushing, I mean, his role and Sir Alec Guinness, their roles in the first film, I mean, really give Star Wars a gravity that in the later movies, the younger actors take it and run with it. But they really cement,
Well, it makes you take
film.
it legitimately because you've never seen, like, Harrison Ford, really, and Mark Hamill and those guys when this first came out. So, yeah, you're exactly right.
I mean, Episode 1 has... I mean, they have some characters, but they, Liam Neeson's not necessarily an older actor, but he was definitely more...
established.
Yeah, very established presence.
Schindler's List, the gravitas, like you said.
Yeah, and then Christopher Lee comes in for Episode 2, and I mean, once again, Max von Sydow for
the new one,
Force Awakens, is going to add. Even though we've got Mark Hamill and the established cast, here's somebody once again, an older actor that really establishes this
acclaimed actor.
Yes,
so.
An older acclaimed actor. So.
All right, so that's Tarkin by James Luceno. So, Andrew, what have you been checking out?
Well, there's an article. Well, there's articles released every month, but basically there's an article that was released that was listing what was going to be removed from Netflix in February. I mean, on that list was a lot of hub shows like Transformers Prime, My Little Pony.
It is still on there.
Both are still on there. They must have re-signed a deal because all that stuff is still on there. But I was freaking out. I hadn't finished Transformers Prime yet, so that's what I've been checking out. I binge-watched that entire show in like a week.
Now I got a couple years not to watch it and to keep putting it off again, right? Until they threaten to take it off. So
yeah, well,
we'll see what happens.
I mean, it's a good show. It's a great show. There's even I didn't know that they had this. There was a follow-up movie, kind of like an hour-long, I imagine, made-for-TV movie. I think I like the end of the series better than that. The movie was very fun, but where it left things, I was like, it was a little cheesy at times. But man, it's just a great series. I love that series. Season 3 was a lot. I was disappointed because I was going through them so quickly, and then before I knew it, I was done with season 3 because it's like maybe 10, 13 episodes, where the first 2 were like 20 something. So that was kind of disappointing. But I mean, for cartoon, I mean, I haven't watched Clone Wars or Rebels. But, I mean, for cartoons like that, you know, I've watched...
You watched Young Justice.
Young Justice, Legend of Korra. I think there's some great cartoons, but I've seen some not-so-great cartoons.
Ultimate Spider-Man, Disney XD.
Hulk, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or what? Agents of
Smash.
Agents of Smash.
We'll get there.
You know, so not all cartoons are...
created equal.
Yeah. So, Transformers Prime is definitely one of the better ones. I hope they're making a follow-up series to it. It's kind of like it's in the same.
It's all about the
canon.
Dinobots, right? And how Optimus Prime enslaves them.
No,
right?
That's funny though. There's a scene from like the newest Transformers: Robots in Disguise that cartoon's coming out where Bumblebee is like walking around with some new Autobots, and obviously on Earth for the first time. Some of these guys, and the one's getting ready to run off and fight the Decepticons. And he's like, hold on. Bumblebee's like, hold on. We got to, get you a disguise. It's like, oh, okay. So he goes, no, it was a she. She goes out and picks out a car, and she's like, okay, this is perfect. So Bumblebee transforms, and she transforms, and they go running, they go driving through the city. And then Grimlock's there, and he transforms into a robot T-Rex. He's just, like, right behind them. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's not a disguise at all.
That's a Grimlock thing to do.
Yeah. Is Bumblebee like a Camaro in this incarnation? Like, what? Are the vehicles similar to the movies, or? Oh,
yes, The vehicles in the Transformers Prime cartoon are, Optimus and Bumblebee especially are very much. Bumblebee doesn't even talk; he talks in beeps and stuff, which I actually like in this because this also introduces kind of like the human, some human kids, and they all have like their Autobot partner and stuff. And the one little dorky tech kid is teamed up with, cool Bumblebee, and he's like, because he's so, he knows computers so well, he can actually understand what Bumblebee's saying. It's actually pretty cool. But like him and Optimus are both like very movie looking, but they all kind of have like this same kind of cartoon, almost kind of looks like Disney Infinity. Like they'd fit in well with that kind of style, and I think it's
they sort of took the movie look into like a stylized approach.
Yeah, they took like the movie look. One of the characters I think was from Transformers Animated, and he kind of looks like animated, but in this style. Okay. So it worked out really well.
So you would recommend it, Transformers Prime?
If you like a good cartoon, you know what I mean? Some people are just go against cartoons, but if you want like a genuinely good cartoon, especially if it's a very action-oriented cartoon. But, okay. I mean, it takes itself seriously. Like, it's not one of those, you can sit down and just watch a random episode, but there's going to be references that you're just not going to get. Mm-hmm. They're going to mention, oh, my whatchamacallit's still broken. Well, that's because Megatron, broke it 2 episodes ago. You know what I mean?
So, what do you remember? I don't even have it pulled up, but like what year this came out, or like what time frame? Was it around the first or second movie? Do you recall? I mean, we can pull it up, but our internet's kind of slow here.
I want to say 2008, but that seems like too late. When the first one came out, 07?
Yeah.
It might have been around 08 though. And then
when Transformers Prime came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe around that same time. But it's good to have something to balance out the crap of those movies. Again, I'm not talking about the first movie. I actually enjoyed the
2010 is when it started.
So the same year that the second movie came out, then 2010.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, no, second movie came out in 2009, so you really needed that cartoon to wash away the crap there.
It's almost like while watching it sometimes you're like, wow, this is what a Transformers movie could be.
That's the way I feel about the Ninja Turtles Nickelodeon show. Yeah. This is what a Ninja Turtles movie should be like, and then we see that Michael Bay crap.
I haven't watched too much of the. I've watched some episodes of the Ninja Turtles, but the Transformers has this whole season long arcs that they do and stuff. It's like, well, this could be a giant epic movie.
Yeah, Turtles does that too. I mean, we're definitely seeing more cartoons, that
I'm happy
connection between episodes. Oh, it's great.
Yeah. So, Young Justice.
Yeah. So check it out on Netflix while it's available.
Season 1 of Young Justice still available. If you want to rent the DVDs, I still have most of season 2 at my house. So I imagine they have more than one copy in Netflix. But
possibly.
Young Justice.
Well,
Young Justice is just so good.
I've also checked out a Netflix cartoon.
Me too.
And up on my recommendation, Andrew checked this out as well. Maybe he regrets it now. It's called, it's a show I wanted to watch because I watched the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and then I didn't watch the newer cartoon
Assemble?
they did. Yeah, Avengers Assemble.
I haven't seen that yet either.
And I didn't like Ultimate Spider-Man, but I said, I want to check this out. It's called Hulk Agents of Smash. And it revolves around Hulk, Red Hulk, A-Bomb, Rick Jones, Scar, Hulk's son, so a She-Hulk eventually, all the different Hulk characters teaming up. And Rick Jones is voiced by Seth Green, so that's pretty cool to have him voice him, even though I'm not a big Seth Green fan, but he does a good job. But wow, not really too much to this show, is there, Andrew?
I mean, I've only watched one episode, but it's just... It feels like...
Lots of smashing.
It's not too bad kitty, but
it definitely has a similar feel to Ultimate Spider-Man.
But
like,
not
you could
that
tell
far.
these two. But it's not as goofy, but it just feels like
for example,
a cheaper cartoon almost,
yeah, like when
like,
a new character appears, everything stops and their name comes across the screen.
Right.
Like Red Hulk.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear about Scar and all that, go read Planet Hulk. If you want to hear about Red Hulk, go read Ed McGuinness's run. It's Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah, it actually taught me something. So
yeah, so he injects himself with he uses the gamma radiation. But what's really cool, what I digged about the show, I can't remember the location in the Marvel Universe.
Vista something.
Vista Verde.
Yeah,
I think Vista Verde, where Hulk was exposed to the gamma radiation. Bruce Banner was.
Or something.
So yeah, he set up a gamma base here.
Well, he's using an old military.
Base.
But they used to keep him prisoner, actually.
Well, my favorite part of the whole cartoon, I think Jerry liked this. There's a Smiling Stan's used car lot. They're fighting in. It's
Hulk
Stan
of a
Lee,
deal.
Hulk of a Deal, Excelsior, just the whole time. So that was cool. I enjoyed that kind of crop up, that little Stan Lee cameo. And I mean,
again, I've only watched one episode. I didn't think it was bad. It was just, again, compared to like Transformers Prime or maybe Clone Wars or something. It's just there's better cartoons out there.
When you're an adult and you're watching cartoons, all right, you may watch a cartoon and be like, this is something I really would have enjoyed as a kid. As a kid, all right? And then I see a cartoon like a Young Justice or a Clone Wars. It's like, wow, this kind of transcends animation a little bit. So I really want to watch this.
That's how I felt about Clone Wars. That I mean, by the 5th season, you're like, they're not even, maybe into 4th, 5th season, you're like, they're not even writing this show for kids anymore.
Yeah.
This is like,
it's intense.
Totally.
So.
It really is intense and as dark as anything in Revenge of the Sith at times. And sometimes a lot darker. I mean,
I'm halfway through season 4, so I got to finish this show.
I think once you hit middle into 4, it just really you'll want to keep flowing through it.
So there was the animated Clone Wars movie that came out.
Yes,
that is part of this TV show.
Yeah,
it is. That's
the
like
first
the
couple
kickoff.
episodes.
That's what.
So if I wanted to get into Clone Wars, I'm gonna have to rewatch that.
No, you've seen it. I would just.
But I saw it years ago when it first came out.
Here's the thing about Clone Wars: the episodes aren't chronologically in order, so storylines will jump around chronologically. There's a list out there if you want to watch them chronologically, which gets confusing at some points. It doesn't kill the flow of the show, but it is kind of
it's very
different.
episodic. That you know 4 or 5 episodes in a row will be like one storyline, and then the next storyline, could be earlier or before, but with different characters too.
That's a cool. Transformers Prime did they have maybe a few episodes where it's showing kind of one-off episodic adventures, but they're all happening at the same time as maybe the past 2 weeks episodes or something. That's pretty cool.
The only bad thing about that is when you get on an arc you don't like, and I know Jerry likes these arcs, but I'm not the biggest fan of the Clone Trooper arcs.
I thought those were some of the strongest.
There's a few I like, but overall I didn't really care for them.
The Clone Trooper arcs were definitely some of my favorite. I'm trying to think if there are any arcs that I really...
But if you get on an arc, that's 3 or 4 episodes. You're stuck with those characters, and you just kind of grind through it. But those are few and far between.
With enough lightsaber battles in those arcs for
exactly.
I really like the personality that they gave the Clone Troopers, and some of the Clone Trooper stories. some of the ones in season 5 are really, really good.
I hadn't finished it, but
I just got a great idea. I'm gonna get a T-shirt for Star Wars Episode 7 that says "I'm just here for Jar Jar."
you should. The arc I enjoyed the most so far, again, I'm not done like you are, is when I cannot remember the planet, so forgive me. You may know, Jerry, off the top of your head. But when they go to visit and you have the light spirit and the dark spirit there, and they're kind of battling for Anakin's soul,
yes,
almost.
Is it Mortis? I think they go to
Mortis.
Is Mortis?
It's not Corbin, is it?
No, Corbin shows up in a different...
Okay, all right. But anyway...
I believe it's Mortis.
I love that arc. It just kind of really puts it right in your face, the struggle that Anakin's going through. Maybe in that 3-episode, 20-minute per episode arc than the whole 3 prequel trilogy movies. So it's powerful. And, the Star Wars books, Jerry, the one I'm looking forward to, you were saying Tarkin got boring in the middle, and you were saying...
It didn't get boring, but there's so many new characters, brought in at one point.
Yeah.
I guess you're really having to play, I actually write down, and I don't have to do this for many books. I mean, I didn't have to do it for Game of Thrones, and, not that Tarkin's anywhere near as complex as Game of Thrones, but when you have characters you really know with, all these new ones, I'd actually kind of write out who was what, especially when you're talking about non-human characters. Because I'm sitting there trying to think, okay, wait a minute, they mentioned this person is, Amon Calamar at, one point, and then, or a Gotal at one point, and then they don't mention it again, and they're talking about, someone's, fur, and you're like, wait a minute, who
are they talking about? Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm looking forward to Lords of the Sith. It's the one coming out in April. It was pushed back.
Yeah.
They described this as a buddy cop movie with Palpatine and Vader, where they get stuck in a bad predicament, and they're rescued by somebody that we will all know.
Yeah.
And we're all hoping it's Ahsoka. Ahsoka. That's who everybody's hoping.
I have my thoughts after... I don't want to spoil anything, but I have my thoughts after...
Tarkin?
No.
After reading Tarkin.
After watching Clone Wars, all of it, reading the tie-in book, Son of Dathomir, the comic, and Tarkin, I have my thoughts.
Okay.
We'll see.
Starscream is
all right. So, check out Hulk Agents of Smash, the first episode. If you're a Hulk fan, it's worth checking out on Netflix. Watching.
Yeah, maybe you'll like it.
Yeah, you might.
Or
if you have a kid, they'll like it. So.
Yeah, if you have a kid, maybe one that doesn't, get outside too much.
Like Smash.
Maybe only can watch one thing a day. Doesn't have experience.
Hey, I'm wearing a Hulk Smash T-shirt.
It's not that bad.
All right, Jerry. I've heard so much about it.
Yeah.
Talk about Loot Crate. You got your first,
I got
right?
my first Loot Crate shipment. And so, once again, just for those who didn't listen to the last podcast or are unfamiliar, Loot Crate is a subscription service where you pay amount every month. I think this month, I'm doing a 3-month subscription initially, so it's $12 a month. And you get, the shipping's $5 or $6, and you get a crate of just all kinds of stuff. It's not as big as I thought it would be. It's about it's a box about the size of a comic book, but it's thicker. It's, I don't know, would you say about 3 inches, about 2 inches thick. So anyways,
it seems like a box that Amazon would send a hardcover book in.
Yeah, okay, that's a good way. But the box is, it's pretty nice. I've heard some people talk about shipping problems with it. Anyways, I subscribed. So I got the Loot Crate edition.
Of Star Wars number
one, which is really cool. It's got Han and Chewie on it with a bunch of, they're actually carrying loot crates if you look on the...
Okay, that's pretty cool. I like this cover.
And I wanted a copy of Star Wars 1, and this is a fairly rare one. The box turns into what kind of looks like an old Nintendo, but it says Loot Crate. It's got 80s looking stickers on it. Had some other cool stuff in it. There was a magazine I must have laid.
You got a T-shirt. Do you tell them your size when you
do tell them your size? So I got a cool. It's a black T-shirt with a schematic, a blue schematic of Voltron on it. The thing I really like,
I think a blueprint is what they called them.
A blueprint.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blueprint.
It looks like a schematic.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm messing with you.
I got a tie. It's a really nice. A real legitimate tie that has the Space Invader guys on it.
That's pretty cool.
It's black with little silver Space Invaders, which I like. It's got a little notebook that is actually set up like a comic panel, so you can make little comics with it. Got a button. They all seem to come with like a badge or a button.
That's the hipster button right there.
Yeah. So
put that on your beanie.
The best thing though that I really like was it comes with a Nintendo or a Tendo, which is they're little plastic figures that look like Nintendo cartridges. They're smaller.
And they have real games on them. Right, that's a real game, right?
No, they make the games look like other things. So this is kind of like a mashup between Doctor Who and Mario. So
okay.
It looks like Doctor Who, but it looks very similar to Dr. Mario as well. I'm going to review that guy sometime this week coming up. But I had wanted a Tendo for a while. I saw him on a Kickstarter project one time, and I really like it. I love the fact that he comes with a little gun that looks like the old
Duck Hunt gun.
Yeah, it's the Duck Hunt's old NES light zapper, which is really cool. If you want to make a Captain N custom figure, you can. So pretty happy with Loot Crate. The second one's shipping soon, but I don't know. I thought it was fun, and I got some neat stuff. And I'm always.
Would you recommend it?
I would definitely recommend it. As long as this is kind of stuff that you would like. I mean, look over a month or two of stuff, and
there's plenty. I mean, there's plenty of unboxing videos,
and they have themes.
YouTube,
they have themes too, like
themes.
each month.
What was this month?
This one was called Rewind. So
retro 80-ish stuff,
Space Invaders,
Star Wars,
the Nintendo stuff. So we'll see. I don't remember what this month is. I just like to be surprised by it. And I mean, for $12, I thought it was a pretty good deal. The Tendos are just something I had been interested in, and I got the Doctor Who one, which is the one I wanted the most. So,
Andrew, have you been checking anything else out?
I'm about done with season 2 of Arrow.
All right, yeah. Tell me what you think of Arrow. I love it. I love this show.
Took a hiatus from Arrow, came back.
Guys, we have a breaking update here.
Oh wow!
We had an assistant just come and show us an article from The Verge that says Serial's Adnan Syed has been granted an appeal by the Maryland court.
Nothing. All right, so fill me in with this story because I have no idea what's going on.
Just watch Serial podcast.
Yeah, you got to. Don't watch it. Listen to the Serial podcast.
Watch it. Yeah, minutes tick by.
So, you think the podcast had anything to do with this appeal? Absolutely.
I don't know.
Some things were already. I don't think the podcast, but I think
the podcast has led
to other things happening. Or actually, the investigation in the case probably led to things happening. Kind of interesting just to see some stuff happening. So, we'll see.
All right, Arrow. Back to Arrow.
So, yeah, I took a hiatus from it when I came back. I forgot how freaking drama-y it is sometimes. Like, sometimes...
I mean, it's a mix of One Tree Hill meets Smallville.
Sometimes I'm just, rolling my eyes. But at least the action and the overall story is something I enjoy. So... It's no Young Justice, but...
I think that I watched this show. I watched the mid-season finale.
I've heard Flash is even better.
The other day with my wife, which she's not into these things. It just happened to be on. She was in the room, and she was rolling her eyes at the acting. I'm saying it's not really that bad, but there's one actress, I don't know her name, who plays Laurel Lance. Yeah. She is terrible.
She has some wonky lines. Somebody had... I just really wish I could remember. Somebody just had an awful line the other day. But sometimes it definitely... And Gotham has a similar problem where sometimes...
Well, nobody watches that show anymore.
I watch it. I know a lot of people. You're actually... Surprisingly, you two are the only two that don't watch it.
I've watched 5 episodes.
And I want to watch Gotham. Honestly,
I will warn you, the mid-season finale is just, from a plot perspective... awful. It's just like people are running around. You're like, why is this person doing this? Why? And the ending, it's like it's not even an ending. It's like the show just ended. Like it wasn't resolved. Like they pretended. It's one of those plots where the characters are almost pretending like it was resolved, but like really you're at home like, what's going on? You know, like I really like it. Robin Lord Taylor playing Penguin. I really like his storyline.
He's good.
But anyway, both Arrow and Gotham both suffer from kind of like TV plot sometimes, where it's like some things happen and you know they're happening just to get from point A to point B.
The Flash is the best of these 3 DC shows, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. I'm trying to catch up on the Arrow.
Very cinematic. When I watched The Flash, is it up to something we'd see in Avengers? No, but as far as visually, it's close to what we'd see in Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
It doesn't look cheap. It doesn't look skimped on the way that Gotham does, and sometimes Arrow does, being
special
TV
effects does Gotham
production.
do?
I mean, not special effects. I'm just saying sometimes you can tell it's a TV show.
I suppose.
It's a TV show.
I mean, but can you tell Game of Thrones is a TV show? Absolutely not.
HBO's kind of a difference.
It's a different beast. Yeah,
They
but
also
I'm
only
saying,
have a couple episodes.
10 episodes as compared to 22
I was supposed to have you bring me
episodes.
season 3. I forgot.
Yeah, I should bring you that. But I checked something else out, and you did this too, so I want to hear what you think about it. Gone Girl. David Fincher's Gone Girl.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
I'm not going to spoil anything
spoil it for me.
No spoilers.
We're not reviewing the movie, but how did you feel about this
I
compared
was surprised that Ben Affleck was dead the entire time.
Joking.
No.
I know.
How's this compared to like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? Like that was David Fincher's last movie before this.
Oh, that makes sense. I honestly hadn't thought about it. I mean, they both, they feel similar. You know what I mean? Like they're different, but like the plot's obviously different, but they do have a similar feel. I mean, but in what way? I mean, they're both great movies. I thought I really like both of them. They
feel the same. They have the same aesthetic. They're very similar movies. I feel like this is a smoother movie.
Yeah.
Than even though they're long. And
it's also a self-contained story.
Yeah, I'm not saying Gone Girl drags as much. Doesn't drag, but I don't think it dragged as much. That's true. And
I don't think either one.
The girl they got, I think her name's Rosemary Pike. I'm not sure. Rosamund Pike. Rosamund Pike. It was originally supposed to be Reese Witherspoon in that role.
Oh, really?
And she turned it down. But I'm not going to say what it was, but did the twist get you? Or did you see it coming?
I'm not sure I specifically saw it.
We're not spoiled. I'm just saying there is a twist.
Well, now you just told me I'm going to be looking for that twist the whole time.
Yeah, I was surprised. It got me a little bit.
It was interesting, but because I mean the movie.
He's actually Batman, and this is part of
the movie
Warner's
has
plan.
you. The movie, I mean, from the moment it starts, almost it has you kind of wondering, what's going on, right? It's like the whole plot is this guy's wife goes missing. You know what I mean? So it's like you're trying to figure out what's going on. So like, I don't know. I will say I'm not sure I cared for the ending too much.
It would be. I didn't see as many movies this past year.
I didn't predict the twist. If that's what you're asking now.
Okay,
but it wasn't.
Neither one of us had read the book,
right? Yeah, I knew next to nothing going into it,
and they changed some stuff up from the book, so even she was a little bit surprised. But it would have been in my top 5 of the year.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
I had to rank movies from last year. I mean, it was good. Ben Affleck played the good kind of. What's the guy's name? Scott Peterson. Was he the famous guy for killing his wife? I mean, that was kind of the character he's playing in a way. Yeah. You know who I loved in this movie? Tyler Perry.
Oh,
that defense attorney. When he came in, you think about his character really did nothing.
Yeah.
But the gravitas he had, since that's our vocabulary word for this episode, man, he was good.
Yeah.
I was like, I want this guy to be my lawyer. What was his retainer, like $200,000 or something?
Like
just
that. It was a lot of money.
But man, just to see him sit there and break us down, it's like he played that hot shot lawyer role.
Yeah.
To a T. So check out Gone Girl. It's available on DVD and now
video on demand. That's where I watched it. And Blu-ray, I think.
Probably Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Maybe VHS? No,
okay,
not VHS.
Quick story with this. We're waiting for, DirecTV usually gets it the same day it comes out on Blu-ray. But for whatever reason, there was a delay with Gone Girl. They didn't get it to the end of the month, even though it came out like the first week of January or something.
Yeah.
So we're all sit there. We planned all week to watch this, get some pizza. It's not available.
Oh,
we drove to Best Buy and blind bought it.
Okay.
Right off the shelf. And it was worth it.
You got a lot of reviews in theaters.
It did, but I don't do a lot of blind buys with movies. I just don't. But I'm glad I own it and like 4 people's borrowed it. So we got a pretty good chunk of epic news. So let's go ahead and get into the epic news section.
I've got a crazy story I got to tell you real quick.
Before we get into epic news?
Before we get into epic news.
While I was out in the woods.
It's Star Wars related.
Oh, that's not the story I was thinking of.
So we have a friend totally named, we call him the Page Master. Guy's totally into really...
Macaulay Culkin and lots of other things.
Yeah, love Pokemon,
Michael Jackson.
Magic the Gathering... Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, so he'd be like a good, good demographic for us. Anyway, so I ran into him last night at our local Walmart. And he's talking to this random guy. I guess, he's like looking at magic cards and stuff. And this like random guy's like walking up to us. And he starts talking because, we're like near the magic cards and Pokemon and things. So the guy starts talking. I kind of come up in the middle of the conversation. And the guy starts talking about like movies. And he's like, man, that little guy in Star Wars, he's dead. And I'm like, what? And he's like... he says, the little midget who was R2-D2, he's dead, man. They're going to have to hire a new person. I'm like, Kenneth Baker is not dead.
He's the other guy that has passed away. There's another guy that died this week. He's the guy in the pilot. He's the co-pilot to the Falcon in Return of the Jedi with Lando.
The guy who played Nine Numb?
Yeah, he died this week at the age of 67.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, this guy must have thought that was...
Kenneth Baker.
So...
Yeah.
But anyways, this guy told me this guy died a while back. That R2-D2 died a while back. I'm like, no, he's still alive. And he's like, no. So then he starts talking. He's like... The guy who voiced Brian on Family Guy died too. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, that's why they had a new dog show up.
For like 2 episodes.
I was like, he was there for like 2 episodes. He came back. He's like, well, they're different voices though. I'm like, no, that's Seth MacFarlane's regular voice.
That's awesome.
And so then just like all kinds of stuff the guy's going on about. It was like so.
He's like the drunk uncle on SNL's Weekend Update or whatever, where he hears like this news from somebody, he never gets it right.
Richard Bonehill, yeah, okay. So Nine Numb he was also in Doctor Who, but he was Nine Numb in Return of the Jedi. Passed away just this past week. So then
he said, who would be a good Joker? Christian Slater. That's what he said. That's an inside
that's a
joke.
Different guy. That's a different guy. So yeah, I was running into people at Walmart that like have really weird opinions on things.
Well, when you're at the toy section of Walmart at 1 in the morning, a lot of crazy things.
Yeah, that's true. Then he totally was like talking about how like he bought like or some church was throwing away like a whole complete collection of vintage Star Wars figure. I mean, watch, this guy probably listens to the podcast and he'll like come find me or something. But he like some church threw away like a whole set of vintage Star Wars figures, and someone tried to buy them from him for $7,000, but kids play with them. I'm like, what? I mean, just weird random
Oh man, we gotta invite this guy over. I hope you got his name.
We should get him on the podcast.
What have you been checking out? Oh, man, if I got the story for you.
I'll tell you. So, like Bill Murray, he's gonna play everybody in Ghostbusters.
It sounds like the guy you would hire to write the fake April Fool's news articles on websites like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. That'd be great. Like, hey, bud, I want you to write like 10 articles for the day for the epic review.
All right, let's get into an epic segment of epic news. 2 of our epic news stories come courtesy of new Netflix shows. One definitely happening, one maybe happening. Let's get into the one that's definitely happening. The first trailer for Marvel's DareDevil hit exclusively on Netflix, available this April. We have a clip from that trailer right now.
Bless me, Father, for I've sinned. It's been too long since my last confession. I've been preoccupied of late with questions of morality. Of right and wrong. Good and evil.
We don't say his name.
Perhaps this would be easier if you tell me what you've done.
You think this is still about you?
I'm not seeking forgiveness for what I've done, Father. I'm asking forgiveness for what I'm about to do. I'm just trying to make my city a better place.
So, Marvel's new Daredevil show. We watched the trailer this week. How do you guys feel about this show? Are you pumped? And how do you feel about Marvel not only invading your local movie theater, your comic book shops, your Netflix, and network television? You have Marvel everywhere.
In Marvel's defense, they were at the comic stores before I was.
That's true. So that's a given. But I mean, you know, pretty much any media outlet, Marvel, right? Instead of Martian. So, I'm excited for Daredevil, guys.
Yeah.
I am. I think this looks like a dark and gritty thing, kind of reboot of Daredevil, but it doesn't look like dark and gritty for dark and gritty's sake.
Right. I mean, Daredevil is a dark and gritty character.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's not like they've took something and Nolanized it. It's not like it's trying to rip off Dark Knight. It felt like it's dark and gritty, but at the same time it was its own thing, you know, and it didn't look like what I expected it to look like, which I guess was, I didn't think it would look like the Ben Affleck movie, but I thought there would be some similarities at least. But we don't see his costume, which I actually enjoyed that movie.
They haven't showed the full Daredevil costume. They just showed the kind of the
black,
the prototype ninja, kind of from the Frank Miller run.
Are y'all gonna watch this?
Oh, absolutely.
It's on Netflix. I will watch it. I'm so excited. I know S.H.I.E.L.D. is on Netflix now, and I want to watch it. I really want to watch Agent Carter. Of course, that's a network, so I'm going to wait till maybe it comes on Netflix, which I'm sure it will at some point. I would be watching that one. And that's kind of the thing we talked about before is I only have Netflix. I mean, that's, you know, Rebels is the only show that I've been able to, watch because we had Google Prime, so we went through that to get the episodes. Mm-hmm. Or not Google Prime.
Amazon Prime?
Google Play.
Google Play.
Okay. Yeah, we had a Google Play card for Christmas. Somebody got, and we're like, oh, let's use it to watch Rebels.
You subscribe to the show?
Yeah, we subscribed to the whole season.
Yeah, that's what I used to do with Walking Dead back in the day.
So, but I'm going to definitely watch it. It's on Netflix. I can watch it. I'm excited.
And the production value looks high. It looks cinema quality.
I mean, there's other Netflix series that, you know, Marco Polo, which I think I'm the only one still that's watched.
House of
Cards and stuff.
Which comes back February 27th. I cannot wait.
So Netflix definitely has some quality shows. I don't have much experience with all the stuff they do. They do a lot, but I mean, it looks great.
How do you guys, are y'all Daredevil fans? Are you fans of the character?
Yeah. I mean, he's not one of my top guys, but he's definitely, I'm not sure what I'd rank
I like him better than
Spider-Man.
I'm glad you bring that up.
I'm not.
I was going to ask this question. I was trying to pivot to this question.
Have you even tried to watch Young Justice yet?
If you
don't like Spider-Man, yeah, I mean, he likes G.I. Joe, doesn't like Transformers. He's one said, I hate Transformers and everything it stands for. I never said that.
I didn't say that.
He doesn't care for the Transformers at all.
I just don't that much.
If you could have...
God.
I'm gonna,
you like Mask?
I love Mask.
Better than Transformers?
Yes.
That was garbage. No, I'm just kidding.
Have you heard the rumor?
I have heard the rumor about
that
G.I. Joe
Matt
3.
Tracker could be from Mask could be in G.I. Joe 3.
All right, I have a question, but I'm going to butt in and answer it first.
Okay.
All right, if you could have one comic book character become a Netflix show, what would it be? All right, and mine is, and we talked about this, Andrew, Spider-Man. Instead of bringing it back to the big screen, do some kind of partnership between Sony and between Marvel. And like Jerry doesn't have cable, but he has Netflix. And you will be shocked since the Mark Webb Amazing Spider-Man movies that Spider-Man has slipped out of the public consciousness. All right, I did this randomly. Went into a Food Line.
Was this when you were on the phone with me?
Yeah, when I was on the phone with Andrew.
Went into the Food Line dressed like Spider-Man, and no one knew who he was.
We were having this discussion.
The police were called.
I'm going to go up to random people and give them two names. And I went up to 5 people.
They weren't random. They were all attractive young women.
Well, maybe.
I'm just kidding. I was on the phone.
That could have been true. I said, have you ever heard of Peter Parker and have you ever heard of Bruce Wayne?
Yeah.
And they all have heard of Bruce Wayne. Not one had heard of Peter Parker. And I was like, a Spider-Man. Oh, yeah, I remember now. But 2 blockbuster movies. The comic book's strong. Amazing Spider-Man #1, the relaunch was the #1 sold comic in 2014 as far as issues sold.
Spider-Man?
Amazing Spider-Man #1 when they rebooted it after Superior Spider-Man.
That's good.
Yeah, comic fans still love Spider-Man. But get him back into people's homes. People like Jerry who don't even have cable have Netflix, and we can see, you know, kind of a more drawn out thing. It don't have to start with the origin story, but I know it's too much of a money.
Give him back to Marvel.
Well, I know, but that's not going to happen.
They're just not doing. Even give him to Fox. I think Fox will do a better job. Like, they're just not doing a good job with them. The head of Sony,
give him the Dr. Uwe Boll.
The head of Sony, because his whole hacking scandal, you know, he just stepped down or whatever. So maybe they'll. I don't know. I thought
it was a she.
It might have been a she. I don't know.
But I think a TV show would be able to explore the side characters like Harry Osborn, like J. Jonah, like Aunt May.
So back to your question, is any Marvel or any
character? Marvel or DC? Let's say Marvel or DC, the big two.
What's Spawn?
That's Image.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I'm not counting. That's
Can
Image.
we pick any comic? Yeah.
Marvel or DC, one character.
Walking Dead.
That you think would not necessarily what you would want to see.
Okay.
Not that you want a Batman show.
Well, I had my answer already, so I'll have to change.
But which one would benefit the most from Netflix treatment? All right.
Star Wars. Now that's part of Marvel. I'm just kidding.
Not Star Wars. All right.
So
what's Jerry's? Let's see.
Oh, come on! I mean, take a guess what mine is.
Batgirl.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
Okay.
But
with the Titans TV show, Oracle is rumored to be on there.
So here's my thing with why I would think Spider-Man may not work, but Daredevil might.
Okay.
Is Spider-Man's villains? His rogues gallery are a lot more fantastic.
That's true.
In terms of the special effects required.
Do a Kingpin art. Do a Kraven the Hunter art.
Sure, you could do that. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm saying Daredevil has a more grounded rogues gallery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even the character himself is, I mean, he's has abilities, but he doesn't have the level of, you know, athletics and the crazy stuff required that Spider-Man does on, you know, to produce a show.
He's not swinging between skyscrapers.
Exactly. It's the same with Arrow. I mean, you know.
Street level character.
That's what I was going to ask you with Flash, because I haven't watched it. He has a lot of, like, Captain Cold and stuff.
Yeah, so now Flash is the one I'm thinking, like, oh, well, he does have a pretty
looks great on TV.
Yeah,
and if you imagine with Netflix, I imagine would be probably a little bit more budget than CW.
So,
I don't know. I think
Spider-Man could be cool. I wouldn't say no.
I just think the character's in such a crappy spot, and he's such a big character, that they can't let him dwindle out of the public consciousness like this. He is when we were growing up, Spider-Man and X-Men were Marvel.
Because with what Marvel's doing, and they claim they're not, but what they're doing as far as getting rid of the Fantastic Four and kind of getting rid of mutants in the comics and stuff, like, can you imagine if Spider-Man falls so far, they're getting rid of Spider-Man?
I don't think we'll get to that point.
I hope we never get to that
point. I'm mad about the Fantastic Four. That's Marvel's first family. That's who started it all, and I get that they may have not had the best comic books.
Yeah.
And that trailer, by the way, I'm interested. I think it looks good.
Yeah.
But there's been this big conversation lately in the geek world of, should it all be one continuity? Should DC Film and DC Comics be one continuity?
Oh,
should
absolutely
Marvel
not.
Films and Marvel Comics?
No.
But the majority of fans that I've heard voice their opinion want it to be one continuity. I'm like, no.
There's so many with superheroes. There's just way too many to keep it one continuity.
There's so much stuff. The comics can't keep themselves one continuity. You know what I mean?
Star Wars has done a good job for years. I like what they're doing going forward. I mean, they have kept it in one continuity, but you have everything pretty even with superheroes. I mean, here's people from other planets. Here's you know, the cosmic side, the human side, ninja, everything together. Mutants.
One of the reasons Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the cartoon, was so good is because they didn't stick to just that base movie setup. You know what I mean? They may have started with just Hulk and Captain America, and
they expanded. But the things you couldn't see.
Yeah, so many other characters, and you know, hero wise and villain wise, and they did so many things in storylines. I mean, and also you look at like 616 Marvel. They introduced Samuel L. Jackson, Captain Fury, you know, Nick Fury, and like, what is he even doing now? Like, he's still there, I know, but he's not even like, you know, Nick Fury, is he? Like, he's
and Coulson's in 616 Marvel
in there too. Yeah. So
it's slowly happening, and with Marvel,
I think bringing it together almost damages it somewhat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Marvel's wiping everything clean with this Secret Wars thing. Supposedly,
that's interesting. Well, they're wiping it clean, but they're also introducing the X-Men '92. You know what I mean? Like those characters to the universe. So it's like they're wiping it clean by mixing everything up.
It doesn't
sound bad. I'm actually interested in what that's doing, but I'm just saying like. I mean, just keep things separate. You know, you can draw like Harley Quinn is a perfect example of them introducing like, wow, she really was a hit on the cartoon. Mm-hmm. Let's introduce her as a character in the comic books. Yeah. But they didn't like, oh, now everybody's exactly the same between both. You know what I mean? Like, why?
All right, so you would say Batgirl.
If they made a comic, if they made a comic line that ties in with something, that's cool. But it's a funny story.
So
though.
One continuity is not a good continuity. Is what we're agreeing. I agree with that.
Overall, yeah.
I think for something that is going to draw from too many things, you know that it's over way too many. You don't necessarily need over too many mediums. You don't need one continuity.
Yeah. It's funny though. Like I recently just heard. I think it was Lego Batman 2 or 3. Like, you know, Arrow, the TV show, he's pretty different from Green Arrow in the comic book. Sure. You know what I mean? And so I heard that, like, New 52, yeah, he's the same. And then I heard that the Green Arrow in the Lego Batman games was, like...
It's voiced by Stephen Amell.
Well, to say, yeah. Like, I heard it was, like, the Arrow guy. And I'm like, this is stupid. And then I heard it was voiced by the Steven guy. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like, okay, never mind. It's cool again. You know what I mean?
We're contradicting ourselves as fans.
Not really. But, I mean, that's just an appearance in a video game. You know what I mean? Yeah, they also have different. The DC, they have the Injustice universe, which has its own comic and stuff that's, you know, has like the old Green Arrow and stuff. That's pretty cool.
So thinking about it, I mean, honestly, the more I thought about Batgirl, I could see that working because she does kind of have a more street level approach, you know.
Didn't they have like a similar? They had like the Birds of Prey.
They had Birds
show.
of Prey, and
she was already Oracle in that.
Cherry
though, right?
owns that, I think, on DVD.
Somebody lent it to me. Okay. They never asked for it back, but
sure,
they didn't want it back.
So yeah,
that sounds like for me. I own Transformers 2 on Blu-ray. I've been trying to lend it to people so they can keep it, but it's still sitting on my shelf.
But I'm trying to think of what I really would push. It would have to be. I would either say you want something that people weren't real familiar with, you know, that you would kind of get attention at a you know, a smaller level because, oh, it's on Netflix, you already have Netflix, you can watch it, you know, you're not having to sell somebody on...
Like Iron Fist would be a good one for Marvel.
Iron Fist could be a good one.
Who are they doing? Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. Are they not? What's the fourth one?
Is Iron Fist on there?
I thought he was the fourth one.
Well, that'd be a good one.
Might be too much special effects, but... I was the Metal Men for DC could be pretty cool. Oh no, Doom Patrol.
That's what I was thinking. That would be a good one.
Let me say,
yes.
with a TV series, I think something really important possibly to do is, you know, not that every TV series has to do this, but if you have a group of characters, you know, not just one character, if you have an ensemble. Then you can sort of do different stories.
One episode here with that character.
Yeah,
one episode
you can mix
with
up. You can shoot for a longer thing without having to always move. You know, always be moving the one character forward. You can move multiple characters a little bit at a time.
You know, two shows come to mind that kind of do that. One, Transformers Prime. 2, Young Justice. So both really good.
Walking Dead kind of does that. They kind of
do now. Yeah, they do. Sure. To answer this, completely throw the rules of your question out of the window, I'm going to say Batman. Because I think a Batman TV show could be more of what I want to see in Batman
just guaranteed money for Warner. So
I want to see all these like multiple Robins. I want to see a Robin eventually become a Nightwing. Yeah. You know, you can't even get a Robin in a movie because
I want to see a Batman universe on film. That's
how great would it be that if you started with like a Batman TV show,
just Batman and Alfred. That's it.
Start off early on, like I don't need to see a Batman origin story again.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You know, Gotham.
They always allude to it.
Oh God!
but start off and then you know,
pre-origin story.
Your season 2 is you add Robin in. You know,
yeah, exactly.
Your season 3 is maybe you add Batgirl.
That's what Arrow does. They keep adding to the cast of Arrow.
I love Diggle. Dude's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on from this continuity. Netflix. Do you want to talk about the other Netflix show?
Well, I think it's interesting that there's a rumor now, and it's just a rumor from, I believe, the Wall Street Journal, that they're making a live-action Zelda
Legend of
series
Zelda.
For Netflix.
How is this described, Jerry, as a Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones for
the
families
family, yeah.
is what they've said, which, I mean, that's the most well-known fantasy thing at the moment.
Right, it's almost like saying a Lord of the Rings for a younger audience.
I would almost think they should have said Lord of the Rings for, a Lord of the Rings for... Which Lord of the Rings is not, like, unfamily friendly.
Because I think Netflix, with Marco Polo, was already trying to find their Game of Thrones. Yeah. But I think Marco Polo is almost more like the HBO series Rome than Game of Thrones. Because there's not really that fantasy element to it. And that's what Legend of Zelda could bring. As a fan of the old Legend of Zelda cartoon, the Excuse Me Princess line.
Excuse me, Princess.
I have no interest in Zelda, so I'm on a...
Oh, really?
See, that's the thing is, like, I've played, like, a couple games of his. I'm really not a big Zelda fan, but I like the character.
Is Wii Twilight Princess? I played
Wii
that
is
one.
Twilight Princess and
Yeah.
Skyward Sword.
Okay, I played Twilight Princess. It launched near the time the Wii
came
launched.
out. It's a launch game. And it was on GameCube as well. So I have played every Zelda game at this point, except for... There's like one or two of the Game Boy ones that were re-releases of other games that I hadn't played.
Like DX, Link's Awakening.
Yeah,
DX.
stuff like that. But I've played every one of the Zelda games.
You haven't played Hyrule Warriors.
Except for Skyward Sword. I haven't played Hyrule Warriors yet.
You played them all in the 6 Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time.
Oh, Ocarina of Time.
That's the best one, right? Ocarina of Time. That's most people's favorite one.
That or Majora's Mask.
I really like A Link to the Past. So
that's the old one, right?
That's the Super Nintendo one.
Did you play the Four Swords? You played that? Isn't that what it's called? Four Swords?
Yeah.
You could hook up 4 Game Boys.
That's the kind that I hadn't played when it was like, oh, this is Link's Awakening, but we're adding like an extra dungeon or something. So Legend of Zelda is, I mean, it is super popular. I just can't even begin to say how popular this is in gaming circles.
It's a huge built-in fan base, and if they can do it right.
Anything live-action gaming, though, TV, movies, it doesn't seem to work. Can we think of an example where a live-action... Like you take something like a video game, like the Super Mario Brothers movie.
We're still at the point where gaming has.
It's almost like the old comic. Comics used to not be done well either.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. It's true.
We're still at the point with games where people are like, we've never replicated. I will say the thing with Zelda is that there's no concrete element. I mean, almost every Legend of Zelda game...
Well, they released a timeline recently.
There's a timeline, but every game is its own thing for the most part. I mean, there's some games that are connected, where it's the same Link and same Zelda and same, again. But the stories are pretty minimal in a lot of ways. I mean, there's really a minimalist approach to storytelling in Zelda, and it's really just based on a lot of, I would say, character archetypes. So they have a lot of room... If you want to watch the best Legend of Zelda movie, you're like, what? Watch the old Ridley Scott film, Legend. It came out in the 80s. It has Tom Cruise and Ferris Bueller's girlfriend in it. What's her name? Mia...
I don't know.
She was what's her name? Sloane in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So anyways, and Tim Curry plays like the big horned guy from... Everybody calls him Big Horned Guy from Legend. But it really has a Legend of Zelda feel to this movie. Watch it. But so anyways, that's a little...
My thing, our games are so cinematic now, like Uncharted. Excuse me. Why do I want to see an Uncharted movie necessarily when I can play Uncharted 4?
Zelda's very different.
I know, but I'm saying I'm talking overall video game, movies, TV show, a bigger conversation.
They're making a Last of Us movie.
Yeah. And
Last of Us, as far as I'm concerned, is basically a movie. There's not even like necessarily a sequel. And so it's almost like watching that. It's like, okay, what can we cut out to whittle this down to an hour and a half? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm excited for it, though, because Last of Us is so good. I'm interested to see what the movie's going to be. Like the same way I was anxious, unfortunately, to see Avatar: Last Airbender film, even though you still had the cartoon with its one plot.
So if they're doing Zelda as a weekly or however, I mean, TV,
they'll release it probably all at once.
But if it's done in installments, I mean, there's not all these things that have to be in a movie.
That's true.
There's not pre-made elements. I mean, if you're sitting there thinking that, you might have characters or situations, but it's kind of like you're telling the same story every time, but you're changing the pieces around. And it could have a lot of room for freedom. It sounds like
you just take elements from
It
each
sounds like
game.
a better idea than, like you guys mentioned, something like Uncharted or even The Last of Us, where we already have a narrative that's structured. What's the need?
I agree. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters.
All right, Ghostbusters has been announced for July 22nd, 2016. All-female cast. This is going to be directed by Paul Feig, the guy that directed Bridesmaids. And it's going to star, of course, Melissa McCarthy, who's probably the most famous actress in Hollywood, at least from a comedical standpoint. Kirsten Wiig, Leslie Jones, and Kate McKinnon. Kate McKinnon and Leslie Jones and Wiig was too, but the Jones and McKinnon are most known for Saturday Night Live work.
I think Kristen Wiig's pretty big name now.
Yeah. Bill Murray, rumored to appear as a different character other than Peter Venkman, right? As a villain in the film.
I don't know what Bill Murray's doing. Bill Murray has... So, just remember, Ghostbusters 3 has been...
in development hell forever.
2001 is really the first time that we got a lot of news from Dan Aykroyd about, hey, we're getting kind of serious about this. And since then, I mean, remember, Bill Murray has shown up on talk shows and award shows in his Ghostbusters uniform. And,
Zombieland, most famously.
Yeah, and then he said he wasn't, he said he was going to come back and play a ghost. So I've got a couple thoughts on this. I mean, I think everybody knows Ghostbusters and Raiders of the Lost Ark are constantly fighting with each other for my favorite movie. So
they're really trying.
Yeah, Ghostbusters is probably one of the properties that's the most near and dear to my heart. I do not mind the female cast at all. Doesn't bother me. I'm definitely interested in that.
Well, especially this female cast too. You know what I mean? It looks like a very funny actresses.
This cast, I don't know that much about everybody in there. I'm familiar with Kristen Wiig. I'm not real familiar with the two...
SNL
Yeah,
ladies.
the two SNL...
No, that's the two that most are. Everybody knows Melissa McCarthy.
Have you seen Bridesmaids?
No, I haven't.
Bridesmaids is good. You should watch it.
And that's the thing. That's not my style of movie necessarily. I'm not saying I don't...
It's kind of that Seth Rogen, James Franco.
Yeah, I was surprised that I liked the interview as much as I did because I just watched it. I just want to see it really because the controversy in America. But anyways, so I have a couple thoughts about Ghostbusters. I'm really interested in what they're going to try to do with this movie because, and I could honestly sit here for like a couple hours and talk about this. I'm going to try to keep it pretty short.
Okay.
So Ghostbusters to me works very well because, and Andrew, wake up. It is a comedy without jokes. Okay? Watch Ghostbusters. The only slapstick character really in that movie is Rick Moranis as Louis Tully. Most of the humor is very situational.
True.
These guys are, and Sigourney Weaver, they're serious characters. It would almost work as well if it were made as a sci-fi action movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's set up that way.
Stakes are there.
The humor is derived from these intelligent or normal serious people reacting to the stuff that's either really strange or them treating strange things as they're really normal. I mean, some of the ways that Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd rattle off lines about stuff that's happened that's what makes it funny for the audience. And I'm really curious, are they going to even try to match the tone of those films, or are they just going to do their own thing with the premise?
Yeah. Tonally, Ghostbusters may be the most unique fanboy franchise out there because it rides the line of being this big blockbuster movie, science fiction elements, along with being this very funny comedy, but not hitting you over the head and approaching it as if it is a straight comedy.
I mean, you haven't seen Avengers?
I mean,
I'm just kidding.
Different
feel, I know.
Bill Murray's hilarious, and I mean, and he has good lines in that movie. But his performance in that movie is very different than Caddyshack.
Or Stripes or something.
Yeah, or Stripes. Or What About Bob or something. I mean, it's more subdued in a way. I mean, he's, they're professionals.
Yeah.
And so I'm really curious to see what this movie tries to do.
I'm afraid it's going to change the tone of the franchise completely to Seth Rogen and potty humor and a bunch of jokes about certain body parts,
Which ones?
You know what I'm saying. I'm trying to be a little family friendly here. I'm worried about it. I love Melissa McCarthy. I think she's maybe the only comedian in Hollywood that solely on her name can sell a movie. She now is like Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler was. She has instant success.
No, I'm just kidding.
Like they were.
Yeah,
she has instant success with even Tammy, as bad as that movie was, made a lot of money. I mean, Seth Rogen, yeah, he's big, but he usually is all the people you expect to see in a Seth Rogen movie and see him
which is enough to sell for some people.
But usually it's James Franco and Seth Rogen, right? Melissa McCarthy, I mean, she kind of...
You definitely see her put forth a lot more than you do a lot of other
studio pushes her.
Yeah, she's pushed.
The studio created her a Twitter account just so she could start tweeting about Ghostbusters, so they can tweet for her. Obviously, marketing ploy, right?
I'm not sure I agree with what you were saying.
She's the most recognizable...
comedian, period.
Female comedian for sure, but I'd say she's top. I think talking people going now, she's in the top 3 as far as name recognition, and I mean maybe Seth Rogen, her, who else?
I mean, I think Adam Sandler's still.
No, I mean Adam Sandler's in the past. I mean he's still known for what he's done in the past.
There's a reason he got that Netflix deal. There's a reason he got that Netflix deal. It's because people recognize his name.
I'm talking a mix of quality recognition.
Okay, well, that's the difference.
Melissa McCarthy.
Quality is relative, too. People love Grown Ups 2. They're making a Paul Blart 2. You know what I mean? So quality is relative.
So Melissa McCarthy is well known. I mean, she is the heavy...
She's well known, sure. I'm not arguing
She is the heavy hitter in this cast. I mean, she is the one that most people are going to recognize the name. And... I mean, it's going to be
She's a great physical comedian.
So
yeah, I'm not arguing
that. Because she's big, I mean, she is.
I mean, really, there's a very different comedy style, and I was talking about, even if this had been an all male cast, there's a lot of comedians out there I like, and there are a lot of people like. I like Will Ferrell. I love Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
Oh yeah.
I would not want to see them anywhere near a Ghostbusters movie.
Oh yeah,
because it doesn't fit.
It would have changed. I think it would have changed the dynamic.
What about Channing Tatum? No, in all seriousness, because you're thinking about like 21 and then especially 22 Jump Street.
Yeah,
it's kind of more.
I would like to see like.
I'm just throwing names out there.
Steve Carell, I could see.
I could see him being serious enough to pull it off.
Channing Tatum, I could see that.
Okay, good.
I could see Jonah Hill. I couldn't see Seth Rogen.
I don't
doing this.
What about Matt Damon?
I am almost.
He does funny stuff.
I am almost too close to this movie, to Ghostbusters.
All right, we'll talk for you.
To feel like I'm being objective here.
Well, who would you like to see then?
I don't.
New.
I don't necessarily. I don't have anybody in mind at this point. But
do you want to know names?
I don't know. I don't. I mean, we've got a cast. I don't want to.
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying like fantasy, like your imaginary best Ghostbusters 3 without the original cast.
So yeah,
it's a new cast.
Doesn't exist probably.
Well, the rumor forever was it was going to be Carell and
Vince Vaughn,
be Paul Rudd.
Vince Vaughn, I could see being serious enough.
Paul Rudd
to pull it off.
Paul Rudd, yeah,
possibly.
Oh man,
I would think
you guys will joke about it, but Chris Pratt. I mean,
no.
So
that would be a good one. Chris Pratt would be really good, even if he's
a friend of mine suggested this. Emma Watson. I could see her being able to rattle off those crazy, really psychobabble sounding lines that like Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis would rattle off.
That would be a good one.
And it being really funny, but at the same time it being like, oh yeah, she knows what she's talking about.
I think I'm less excited for Ghostbusters 3 after this conversation.
Aykroyd's not involved at all. After years of waving the flag for Ghostbusters 3.
You know what? I think after Harold Ramis passed away, I think everybody just realized it wasn't what they wanted to do anymore.
Yeah.
So... a friend of mine who will remain nameless, he just said he's not watching the movie. He won't even go see it. He won't acknowledge it exists.
Ghostbusters 3?
Yeah.
How can you say that without even a trailer? Without even a trailer.
I know.
I mean, the new Power Rangers movie could be complete garbage. But I at least want to wait till a trailer to figure out whether I
want to see as much content for the things I like as possible, but this movie scares me to death.
That's not true at all. There's garbage out there. You know what I mean?
am just not...
I'm saying I do personally. I like more content of the things I want to see some...
Even if it's bad?
I mean, not bad. I'm just saying if the quality degrades, you know. I'm not... If there's the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, I'm glad it's out there. At least the character's out there. It's not a good quality cartoon.
I guess like Jurassic Park is maybe like that. Like, you know what I mean? Even though maybe 3 isn't as good as like the first one, I enjoy that it's there.
Yeah, I like 3. I like 3 better than 2.
All right,
2 has Vince Vaughn and Jeff Goldblum.
We'll have to wait.
It's a great 2 has a good cast. 2 falls apart halfway through.
And Toby from the West Wing.
Yeah. But it wraps it back up with the gymnastics, brings it all around.
All right, let's move on to a different news story. Let's talk about, you're talking about an all-female cast for a movie, Ghostbusters. Let's talk about an all-female Avengers comic, A-Force, which is pretty much going to, it says it's going to star Miss Marvel. It's from the writer of Miss Marvel, Willow Wilson. She writes the Muslim Miss Marvel comic. And artist, the Muslim Miss Marvel.
I thought you said muzzle.
No,
okay.
Margaret Bennett will be doing the art. But based on everybody who is anybody, a main female character is on the promotion for this with She-Hulk,
Spider-Man girl, whatever her name is.
Spider-Woman, Medusa, She-Hulk, Dazzler, Storm, a lot of people in here. But
is that 92 Rogue?
I don't know. Scarlet Witch is in here. But
Wasp.
Yeah, Wasp is in there. Both Miss Marvels are in there.
Squirrel Girl in there.
Black Widow's in here. Pepper Potts says Rescue is in here in her suit. So.
RC from Transformers Prime is in there.
Rogue, yeah, 90s Rogue's in there. Okay.
Gwen Stefani is in there.
Are people interested in this?
Where does the name come from again? I don't remember.
It's Avengers Force.
A-Force?
Okay.
Which many people thought this was going to be, like Andrew was saying earlier, a Star Wars and Marvel crossover.
Right, because they teased it as a forceful announcement. And people were like, oh, they have the Star Wars license now.
That would be disastrous.
They're not to that point yet. I'd have a bad
Marvel crossover.
I'd have a bad feeling about that.
I do too.
But listen, I'm excited about this.
And Transformers and Marvel has crossed over before.
Are we just now making
success.
Are we just now making the characters and teams female just to be making them female?
I don't know. As 3 men, we should discuss this.
I know, but exactly. But I mean, we have the female Thor, which I've read the first issue. I really dig it.
I think what it is that females are already buying comics. You know what I mean? They're buying more comics than I think
ever before.
Yeah, DC or Marvel has been willing to admit so far, almost. You know what I mean? And I think they're both making strives to have something that female readers want. So in some way, you could say they're making female things for female's sake, but it's because there's an audience out there that they weren't supplying content to.
These are the comics. Like this may sound bad, but I wanted to read that new Thor comic because she was a female. I wanted to see what a female Thor would be like, and it got really good reviews. And that's quality, you know. As they just begin to push stuff to push it because it is a female-based cast, I worry about quality degrading a little bit. But I just don't think you make characters a certain race or a certain gender just to be doing that. I think narratively there needs to be a focus and a game plan to why are we doing this? Mm-hmm. What type of issues are we going to address in this comic, politically and narratively?
The best comic book, and I mean it's ending, that I think that was a good, you know, if you're saying a feminist comic, I mean that's a mainstream.
Where's Gina when you need her?
I tried to call her today to ask her opinion on the Star Wars book, but she hadn't read it yet. The best comic to me that was out there, that if you're saying like a feminist comic book, was Batwoman.
J.H. Williams, right?
Batwoman was fantastic. You had a lot of strong female characters. I mean, you had male characters in there too. It wasn't just saying,
Her
hey,
art was beautiful.
it's the most beautiful comic that DC has probably ever produced. I mean, definitely in the New 52. But you had strong female characters. I mean, Batwoman is, openly lesbian with a partner, and it never felt like anything where they're saying,
not just
"Hey,
a partner, but a friend."
Yeah, good line.
Batman Forever reference there.
I get it. It never felt like it was something like saying, "Hey, this book is all female characters to reach out." It was just a story about a strong female character that was treated like with the same seriousness as a Batman.
It wasn't marketed that, hey, this is a lesbian character, this is a female character. It just, DC let it breathe and be that.
It's just a good book that the characters are treated as respectfully as any other characters, and everything was about the narrative and the character growth. It didn't feel like they were trying to do anything. I mean, sometimes you have, I'm sure somebody consciously was working to include those themes, but it didn't feel like it was a marketing. It felt like a serious attempt versus a marketing gimmick. So
I felt like it was natural. It was part of the story rather than being the story. Okay, I hate to bash another podcast, and I'm not. These guys are professionals.
Call them out by name. Let's do it.
And they have thousands of listeners, and
I don't care.
From time to time, I enjoy their podcast.
From time to time, not all the time. No, who is it?
Brad and Lermy on Movies is the name of the podcast.
Garbage.
And I had to quit watching
garbage.
because they just have gotten, and I can be a pessimistic person myself, but they've gotten so negative that it's just, I don't want to hear this anymore. I want to hear, there's enough negativity. We
have the best Brad podcasting right here.
I go to these outlets to escape and for positivity, And
I don't. I go for doom and gloom.
They mainly talk about movies, but from time to time they talk about books, and they rarely ever talk about comic books. But one of them got the Miss Marvel, the Muslim Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan's the character's name, and I've read it. It's a good comic, really good. I've read the first volume. I own it. But they never talk about comic books, and the reason they were talking about it, the only reason they read it, is not because they cared about Miss Marvel, not because they cared about the Marvel Universe or any of the characters. It was because she was Muslim. And it's like, at what point is Marvel doing something wrong by pushing books based on, hey, oh my God, we got the first Muslim superhero, or we got the all-female team. But these guys are saying the only reason they read it is because of that, right? And they're saying how it's a great comic, it's probably the best comic in years, but it's like, you guys don't read any comics. You just read this.
Do they not talk about comics, or they not read comics?
They rarely read comics, but they said they wanted to pick this up because everybody was talking about it. Oh. One of the guys
it's a pretty strong. I mean, it's a pretty strong comic, right? I haven't read it.
It is. It's really good.
I don't read Marvel that much, but
I mean that's from Marvel's standpoint. It's a great thing, then, right? It's kind of like variant. Covers. They do variant covers, sure, to me because they like them, but also because they sell better.
They're reaching the demographic they're not reaching by putting different characters in there, like by pushing a Muslim Miss Marvel. It's like, if you want to make Miss Marvel Muslim, great. I enjoy that. I want to hear about that kind of that social commentary on this a girl with a strict Muslim family growing up in New York. But I don't want you to push your book just because she's a Muslim character. I don't want you to push the book just because it's a black character or a female character. I want there to be more there. You know what I mean?
The marketing is interesting with how those go, because
it's like with Batgirl, they didn't push her as the lesbian character.
Batwoman.
I'm sorry, Batwoman.
That's okay. It's just different characters.
Two different characters. Yes,
have some respect.
Just different. They did. I mean, they pushed that a little bit when they started it during 52, but that's been quite a few years now. And this book it felt very organic. And I think that's the thing, is when you work in diversity and it feels very organic, people feel very different about it than when it just sounds like it's a marketing ploy. So, which, I mean, sometimes people have to push things, and I mean, they did this. A lot of comics happened during the Civil Rights Movement. I mean, did a lot of the same with African American characters, and I mean, it's just one of those things about making comics resemble the people who be representative of the people that
they're
they
important
read them.
issues, and I'm glad they're in there. But I don't want to lose the essence of a hero over that.
It's also
or,
it's also some of these. It's easy to say, well, maybe this is a gimmick because you see something like Star Wars is selling so big because it's Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's quality and that kind of stuff. But it's like there's, like I said, there's an audience out there who haven't had a chance to put their money where their mouth is. You know what I mean? They almost haven't had a lot of outlets to figure out, what is the quality and versus what is the gimmick.
One of the things that'll be interesting, too, is reading this book is saying that it's reaching a female audience because it's an all-female cast. Think about how many comics from the 90s from indie publishers had all-female casts.
Hellcats, right? That was one.
Like some of those, I'm thinking like Witchblade, Warrior Nun Ariella, what's Lady Death. I mean, some of those comics were all females, but, I mean, those were targeted at guys, so it's going to be interesting. Is this, once again, just a group of girls together that are targeted towards, boys buying comics, or is it...
I think it's targeted for girls now.
It'd be just interesting. I mean, reading it will, definitely...
What do you think is, I'm not sure how to say this, but, taking a character like Thor and saying, oh, now Thor is a girl, versus having a comic like this, where it's like, well, we have these, characters, these female characters that females already like, and we're just going to put them together and maybe give them more of a spotlight.
Yeah.
So,
do you think one's more gimmicky than the other?
Well, Thor's not it's a different character.
Right, no, I understand that, but it's basically like, Thor's a girl now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Almost kind of
Thor's been a
taking
frog,
over
too,
Captain
though.
America.
Yeah.
And whatever Beta Ray Bill was, whatever race that is.
Yeah. I am definitely of the opinion that if you're trying to bring in more diversity and you already have a character that's there, push him forward. Like this is a cool cover to look at. I'm looking at the A-Force cover because you're like, man, Marvel does have a lot of strong female characters. Yeah. It's cool to see them all in one place. I mean, DC could do that. I mean, DC's got a ton of strong female characters. You could do this, if you have characters that aren't typically, represented as well in comics, it's cool to see somebody say, hey, let's just move those characters up to the forefront a little bit. Yeah. Let's give them a little more attention.
Rather than changing a character
rather
black
than just doing
Hispanic or female.
Yeah, now once again, if you're changing the mantle versus the character, I can see that very different. I mean, I think it's very cool that Falcon, stepped up.
And it makes sense.
Yeah. And it obviously fits the story.
They're not
it makes
saying
sense.
Steve Rogers is black.
Right.
And Miles Morales and stuff.
I love that.
Miles Morales.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, but the problem is we get labeled a lot of times as being maybe in comic book fans in general. I'm speaking here get labeled as unfairly, maybe as being racially insensitive because we don't want Peter Parker to be black. Peter Parker's white.
Or
Parker
Johnny Storm
should be white. Or Johnny Storm, and that's not the case at all. We have nothing against black characters. We want to see black characters, Hispanic characters, lesbian characters, whatever, be pushed. But we don't want them to be changed just for the sake of being changed.
Yeah, one of the problems is fanboys want to see what they want to see. And they have an idea of the character, and that's who that character is. And any change, regardless. I mean, I'm sure there'd be, if Peter Parker was blonde-haired, blue-eyed, we'd be like, that's not what Peter Parker looks like. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
So there are some people, and it's going to be interpreted that way. However,
think about every time a new Bruce Wayne gets cast in a movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, everybody goes on about Michael Keaton's not right. Val Kilmer's
James
not
Bond,
right.
you know what I mean?
James Bond,
That's not what James... even though James Bond... What does James Bond look like? You know what I mean? There's so many different iterations now. But I think some of that is like... There are some comic book fans that kind of see it as their thing, and there's a bigger audience now, and they almost don't like it. You know what I mean? Like, this was my thing, and now it's changing and appealing to everybody.
If somebody's right for something, I mean, the stereotypical example is that, I mean, Nick Fury, it just worked out very well. It fit the character.
And, because Ultimate Nick Fury is based off of Samuel L. Jackson.
Exactly. But there was a very intentional thing made about, oh, hey, we could take this previous character and completely change him, and even though it was based on Samuel Jackson, worked out well. So
if you actually read more of the Ultimate comics, the fact that he is black, at first it's kind of like, well, Nick Fury can be either one, right? Yeah. Like, Nick Fury can be black, can be white. It doesn't really go to his character at all. They actually explored the fact that he's black and how, like, his upbringing and stuff. And it kind of couldn't happen to a white character. And it's really, I don't want to spoil it because it ties into, like, the entire Ultimate universe. But if you read, like, into the Ultimate some more, like, his story about how he became Nick Fury is very interesting.
All right, well, let's move on to, before we do a Star Wars review, quick Star Wars news. First of all, Mark Hamill says...
He's taking a page out of Aaron Rodgers' playbook, telling people to relax.
RELAX, relax. And then the Packers went on to make it to the NFC Championship game.
Hey, maybe Star Wars will do all right for itself, too.
But Mark Hamill says, don't get expectations too high. Manage expectations.
Yeah, we have 2 Jar Jars in this thing.
This movie isn't going to be the second coming. Enjoy the movies coming out.
It's the third. No, I'm just kidding.
In between now and then, and don't get your hopes too high, which we know for Star Wars fans, and you say Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, R2, 3PO, too late, right? Our expectations are too high.
He says, don't get your expectations too high. Oh, by the way, Lando Calrissian's in the movie, and everybody expectations go up to the next level.
How have you managed your expectations for this compared to how you managed them for episode 1?
I watched the prequels.
Okay, fair enough.
It's realizing now that Star Wars is so many different things. I mean, once again, we just talked earlier, they do have one continuity. I mean, Star Wars has always pretty much had... other than some of the Infinity stuff, they've pretty much had one continuity. But it's realizing, hey, we've got Clone Wars now. We have the prequels. We have Rebels. We've got video games. We have a lot more different Star Wars media now than we had in...
99?
Yeah, prior to 99. So I've seen a lot of different interpretations of Star Wars, and... I don't want to say I know what to expect. I just know that I can expect something very different. I'm kind of prepped. I really think for a lot of fans in general, just fan culture in general, this is not prequel bashing. The prequels were the first time we really saw something that was significant as a child and then looked at it and said, this is really different than what we expected. For a lot of people, it was the first movie that really was like, oh, they're doing something different with what was important to me as a kid. I mean, I'm sure older fans maybe felt the same way when they saw 89 Batman from, 66 Batman. But I think for a lot of us, that was the first time that we're like, this is different than what we expected.
To me, I love building up unreasonable expectations because it makes
Spider-Man 3.
It makes the ride just as good or better than the destination. And he brings up Spider-Man 3. Like, as bad as Spider-Man 3 sucked, like, the anticipation and build-up and talking about it for months and months on end was awesome. Yeah. And, I wouldn't trade that for anything, right? And we're getting those Venom shirts and everything like we all had at that midnight showing. That was epic. And even if the movie sucked, that's fine. Now, I don't think Star Wars is going to suck. But don't cheat yourself of the ride. Enjoy. 2015 is the year of Star Wars. Books, comics, the movie, ultimately. But enjoy it. Yeah. Enjoy the ride. That's what I would say. So, I think raising my expectations makes the ride better.
Okay. I was having a conversation with a coworker of mine. I was talking about, they were talking about, for movies or properties, just whatever the movie was for them was the be-all, end-all. If the movie wasn't good, that was what they cared about. Where I was like, for movies and stuff coming out, I'm just thinking, for me, the big thing was I was talking about Ninja Turtles. I didn't dislike the new Ninja Turtles movie. I just didn't care for it that much.
Yeah, but you don't dislike Ninja Turtles now because the movie sucked.
You know what?
That's
I loved
stupid.
Eating Ninja Turtles pizza, and there were a lot of toys coming out, and we saw more books coming out, and there was just kind of a focus. I'm like, there's so many different Ninja Turtles things I can enjoy. The IDW comic,
And just because one thing doesn't appeal to me. So
that's the dumbest argument I've ever heard, that just because the movie sucks, that's the be-all, end-all, and you should
some people only
abandon the property. Like,
you're
what
talking
the
some
heck?
people
We're talking mainstream people.
You're talking about, mainstream. That's why when people talk about, though...
Stupid.
So talk about, people prequel bashing. When we start seeing a lot of stuff ramping up about the new films, people are like, well, maybe they'll, you see a lot of mainstream media say, hopefully this will make up for the prequels or the disappointing prequels. For a lot of people, they saw the prequels and they said, this isn't what I like.
So now they hate Star Wars, even though after they loved episodes 4, 5, and 6. Like, I know that.
What have you done for me lately?
I know people do that, but like,
right.
The Panthers suck one year. I'm still a Panthers fan.
That's different.
But if you are just somebody who just watches the movie, there are a lot of movies that I would watch and say, like with me with Transformers.
I was going to say, people like Transformers. People love the Transformers movies. Just think about that.
Yeah.
If people are out there and they love a property based solely on the movie, people love Transformers.
I enjoyed the first Transformers movie. I'm not a Transformers fan. Didn't care for anything with. Tried to watch the second one and just stopped.
But on the flip side of that, people that love Transformers
are so much better than G.I. Joe.
Overall?
Just garbage.
People who love Transformers their whole life.
Who cares about people?
And look, people who love Transformers their whole life and the movie sucks. That doesn't rob you of everything.
Right.
No, it did. For me, it did. I don't like Transformers anymore.
But for somebody who's not a hardcore fan, like me, of Transformers, I'm not a fan of Transformers. I saw the first movie, didn't like what I saw the second movie, and stopped.
Did you finish the second movie?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
So
that's like me and Andrew with Spider-Man,
movie,
though.
But I didn't love everything else around it.
Wait, what's the point of what we're saying now?
We're sorry, the
managing expectations.
Oh, but some people expectations aren't high because of the prequels?
Yeah, a lot of people. I've heard a lot of people say, "I'm just not." I mean, just not that excited. The prequels, why are they bringing?
I think right now, honestly, the mainstream audience is more excited for Age of Ultron than Episode 7. Like, honestly,
I think Episode 7 stuff will ramp up here in the next.
Well, yeah, it also comes out
I think after this, middle of summer, once Age of Ultron's being phased out of theaters, Disney's going to put the pedal to the metal.
Oh, sure, Disney's wanting to market their. So let's jump to the next piece of rumor news.
Rumor news.
Go ahead, Jerry. You brought this to my attention.
So I'm reading this report from theforce.net, but on February 5th, J.J. Abrams. The rumor is that J.J. Abrams approached Disney about moving the release date up for Star Wars: The Force Awakens, of getting it forward, being concerned about. Maybe the film being spoiled, and so I'm kind of interested to see what happens with this.
My question is, when would be the most opportune time to move it up? We had said 1st of December, maybe Thanksgiving, but you can't move it up too far.
I could see early November and it having early mid-November. I mean, there's nothing else.
Bond is out at the first week in November.
So, but I could see Disney maybe being a little bit concerned, but I would see Bond backing off more from Star Wars.
Bond's not going to back off from that in November. That's their thing.
Yeah, but I mean, they could pick a different week in November. I could see maybe early December. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, Disney,
I don't think they'll move it up.
Here's something, though, that I'm really interested about from my perspective. The movie comes out December 18th. Mm-hmm. That is a week before Christmas. George Lucas just recently at a interview kind of thing he had, him and Robert Redford were like a part of a panel and interviewed, and George Lucas talked about the money for Star Wars was in the action figures. I mean, the merchandising is so much of what Star Wars makes. If you're trying to bring new kids in with these movies and you're trying to sell new toys, these kids have to know who these characters are.
If we could get it right before Thanksgiving, it would be perfect because it gives you that Black Friday and holiday shopping time that most people do right after Thanksgiving to buy those toys for their kids after they've seen the movie. I mean, summer would obviously be perfect, but that's impossible. Yeah. They're not going to put it out. It's not impossible, but they're most likely not going to put it out.
It's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home.
But with Avengers being in the summer, that's their summer movie,
Sure,
right?
They don't want to steal from each other.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, even though most Star Wars fans wish it was Memorial Day weekend, right, that this was coming out. And you brought up a point to me when this release date was first announced. Summer's the best time for your, like, fast food tie-ins and things like that as well. And Star Wars is going to be tied in. You're going to see convenience store promotions. You're going to see fast food promotions. You're going to see, you know, all kinds of promotions. And I just don't know how that's going to work. It is close to Christmas, but I just think there's such a line in the sand from Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, that they're just not going to cross it. I think it's going to stay there. So
we'll see. I'm really curious about what the merchandising will do, because there's a lot of weird issues.
We expect these toys probably win October, you think?
August, mid-late August is the current estimated.
So we're going to have figures sitting in this store for 6 months for a movie, almost 5 or 6 months for a movie we can't see. God, it's going to be hard not to get spoiled for this thing, ain't it?
That's another concern. Typically, we've seen Star Wars figures release a couple...
Luke, removable hand.
Like a month or so before the movies, maybe a little bit more for some sneak preview stuff. And that's kind of what it seems to be, is that, I mean, if there's tie-in, you know, video games, apps, books, anything like that, people want to release that stuff before Christmas. I mean, they want to sell that during the holiday season. And
they're looking at every Star Wars movie coming out in December. Like everyone, like the first spin-offs in December. Episode 8's rumored to be December.
We'll see what happens. I think this will just be interesting to see what kind of, you know, what kind of arguments come up with this in the next couple weeks.
All right, so let's move into our feature review of Star Wars number 2. Let's review Star Wars number 2 by Jason Aaron. Not only can he review toys, people, but he can play the harmonica.
Live performance. That was a live performance.
Very epic performance.
Hold on. Let me get my breath back.
We reviewed number 1. They're going into the weapons factory. They're trying to take it out. The rebels are.
Simoon 1.
All right,
I believe issue 1 sold pretty well, so a lot of people must have listened to our opinion on number 1 and purchased it.
Yeah, 1 million copies, thanks to us, have been sold. And Vader
please.
And Vader showed up, and now he's going to confront Luke Skywalker. That's where we pick up. And we're going to start with just Jerry. If you would you just not read the whole thing, but would you read the first 2 pages?
Read the first 2 pages.
Do you want them in character as best as I can?
Yeah.
All right.
So this is how we experience. I just want to give the audience a sample size. Starting out with, is it Vader talking?
Vader talking to Luke.
You hold that weapon like an untrained child. You have no right to it. You, boy, are no Jedi. Who are you?
You killed my father.
I've killed very many fathers. You'll have to be more specific. Ah! Ah! This is most pathetic. You are not worth the seconds it would take to finish you. Who sent you here to die like this?
I was there on the Death Star. I saw what you did to him. You killed Master Kenobi. And now I'm here to make sure you... No!
All right, so that's from the first 2 pages when they confront
We
one
don't have
another.
comic book trailers.
Yeah.
So.
No.
I was going to say, I am honestly surprised that they chose to kill Luke Skywalker this early in the series, but
it's hard to see how they're going to manage.
Turns out it's actually the clone Luke in Empire Strikes Back.
Skywalker.
I mean, there's really no hidden quality. It's seamless here from issues 1 to 2.
Pretty good. When you have more dialogue with characters, I mean, obviously sometimes you're like, it's just interesting to hear more dialogue with like Vader and Luke talking to each other, you know, dialogue that we're not familiar with, but a lot of cool things in this comic. Once again, I'm liking the characterization. I did read a really interesting thing they were very intentional about putting, even when they put in alien races, they were very intentional about thinking, would these be races that would have been able to be in the original films due to how they were portrayed? Like, they could have been done with practical effects versus CG.
So Sebulba didn't walk by.
Yeah. But,
in the pod racer.
There's some really good action scenes in this one.
And the stormtroopers actually hit targets, which is always good, as Andrew pointed out.
I know last time we kind of talked about, really Easter eggs as we went through, and I'll definitely kind of mention that, but anybody have any thoughts?
Yeah, your Luke sounds a lot like Burt Ward's Robin, I think.
Does he?
Yeah, Burt Ward voicing Luke.
A little bit of Burt Ward going on there. Okay, so
for me, I will say I enjoyed this one as well as the first one. But however, for me, it's starting to already get to that point where it's like I just want to read a graphic novel and not the individual issues. Like I've never been a fan, especially like...
But he would still rather read this than see Jupiter Ascending. We can make that clear, okay?
Well, yeah, but Jupiter Ascending is a very long movie. This did not take long to read. But, I mean, for me, like, single issues, especially for comics nowadays that do the long story arcs, it's almost like experiencing 10 minutes of a show or a movie and having to wait for the next 10 minutes.
I like the covers, and I
don't know.
Great. I like the individual
the
issues.
presentation is beautiful, but I see what Andrew's saying is...
We started reading, and I was like, okay, that's right. That's where we're picking up.
If you read a lot of... if you read older comics, they're so much like...
Self-contained.
Yeah, self-contained.
Yeah.
You're like, I got a whole story. And when you read a modern comic, you're like...
I had an issue...
I got a scene or two.
My nephew, years ago, bought me an issue of... I forget which Batman comic it was.
Batman and Robin, I think.
It was Batman and Robin. And I was like, oh, he's how cute he thought of me to, talk to his mom.
It was the first one with Dick Grayson as Batman, I think.
No, it wasn't the first. It was Dick Grayson was Batman, but it was, later on. It wasn't, the first one or anything. But he got this for me. I'm like, how cute. And I was like, well, I'm going to obviously I'm going to read it. It's just a single issue. But I assumed I had no idea what was going on. And really, I was surprised that it was self-contained. There were a few threads where it's like, okay, obviously they were talking about something that happened previously, but the overall story was self-contained, and it was actually surprising to me.
Remember how the old comics, especially the older Marvel, would have the little asterisk and be like, see issue 4,
editors
Smiling Stan.
Yeah.
This happened way back in issue 12.
And then
Magic Mike or something like that.
You try to actually go find that.
Marvel would give the editors crazy names.
Magic Mike. I hope there was somebody called Magic Mike over there. It's awesome.
Probably was.
They made a movie about it.
I had a smoking robot as a kid named Magic Mike. He was like this red robot that he had something in it that he sparked and smoked and stuff. I don't know.
Magic Mike almost sounds like a child's cartoon.
You see those editors' notes now?
Letters.
Like those editors' notes reprinted. See issue 1 of Amazing Spider-Man, and you go to your local comic book store. Yeah, y'all have issue 1 hanging around of Amazing Spider-Man. I always wonder, has anybody ever done that? Who's naive and first getting into comics?
No one's done that, Brad. So, all right. So, any other thoughts on before we go through and just kind of talk about maybe Easter eggs or cool scenes or
I think it's interesting to have an interaction between Vader and Luke before Vader truly knows who Luke Skywalker is. His son, or he knows he's the pilot who blew up the Death Star. Either I think that's cool because have we ever really got that?
Yeah,
no.
This first interaction obviously has a lot of the flavor of Luke and Vader's confrontation and the gantry at Cloud City. There's even some kind of similar dialogue cues and stuff. I do like Vader takes Luke's lightsaber, and so he has his lightsaber and Luke's saber. Which
he recognizes it. Feels
he does
familiar.
recognize it, but he goes to do the two blades to behead him.
It's a cool shot, like Dooku,
which is what he does with Dooku in Revenge of the Sith. So it's kind of a flavor of or a allusion to Anakin sort of. Doing
it's
that.
A callback.
Callback to that.
Are we doing spoilers for this issue?
Of course, yeah. Spoilers for issue 2, yeah.
So that's why I was just making sure. Yeah. So we are talking about spoilers, okay?
Yeah, we're talking about 14, 20 page comics. So
20 pages.
I like that one of the there's a lot of Mon Calamars in there. I mean, once again, Admiral Akbar is one of my 5 favorite Star Wars characters. So always glad to see the Mon Calamari.
I think you see the ruthlessness of Vader, like I hate to use this again, in full force here, as he's going through this weapons factory, and these slaves that they've recently freed, he's just force choking them one after the other after the other
through this one Mon Calamar.
Yeah, I mean, it's graphic. I mean, this isn't. They're not pulling
there's like
any
blood
punches,
squirting out or anything, but I mean, it's brutal. So.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Han and Leia kind of bickering in the
I thought that was the weaker part of this comic. I thought that their back and forth didn't feel as organic as it did in issue 1.
Yeah, it's tough to capture that, especially with how quick they usually are when they snap it. But there were definitely some good parts in it.
It wasn't bad.
Our C-3PO is just really funny. I think he might be the character that just sounds the most like his. You just hear Anthony Daniels in your head.
Yeah. Well, 3PO has some good. I think his lines are similar to, or I'm sorry, R2D2.
Yeah.
His lines are similar to. All right.
Yeah.
Too much better. We're going to start paying money, so be careful.
All right.
Be careful, yeah.
But I like when C-3PO tries to go out with a blaster to take care of these alien race, and kind of a little joke there. C-3PO asks one of these aliens that he can't understand if they speak Bocce, which is what Owen Lars asks 3PO if he's fluent in Bocce. So, do you speak Bocce?
A lot of Luke kind of calling out to Ben here as he did at Cloud City.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He's got a lot of the connection to Ben. Some speeder bikes going on.
Yeah, I love this line, Jerry. Do it justice here. Sit this line up. Sit this scene up here.
Okay, so Vader and the stormtroopers are attacking Luke and some of the slaves that are trying to get freed. I mean, Luke is really feeling like this is his fault. He's gone into this. He's sort of in despair. He's saying
he feels out of his element.
Yeah, he says, "I'm not
here.
my father. I'm not a Jedi. I'm just some stupid farm boy from Tatooine. I don't belong here. I don't." And he looks over and sees a speeder bike, and he says, "Yeah, I'm a farm boy, all right. A farm boy a farm boy who can bullseye womp rats," which is a callback to a line we even repeated early in the show that Luke bullseyed womp rats in his T-16 back home. It's a little cheesy. That line is.
He tells him that. Who's he tell that? His buddy.
He tells Wedge.
Yeah, Wedge. That's who it is.
At least that.
And then
at the briefing on
hops on the land speeder there.
He does hop on the land speeder, and he does though. He's using the land speeder the speeder bike.
Speeder bike. Yeah. Sorry, land speeder's on Tatooine.
Yeah, he's on the speeder bike, which is cool. So that's like kind of how he knows to fly.
It's a nice callback to the time his father hopped in the little spaceship in Episode 1 and was shooting robots or whatever.
Yeah, kind of out of his element. Anakin, you're talking when he in the Naboo starfighter.
Acknowledging at the scene from Attack of the Clones.
He goes.
No, I'm talking about from Phantom Menace.
Raiders.
Okay, I guess I don't know.
You're reaching for straws.
I don't think that was what they were trying to. I just like to always call back to Phantom Menace when I can.
So part where
it's art, it's subjective.
Han is
it's like poetic.
Han is trying to step on Vader with an AT-AT, and Vader uses the Force to keep it, to keep it up in the air and
epic
destroys
scene.
it. Yeah, pretty cool to see that.
I think it's a good callback to that Salt and Pepper song, "Push It."
Okay. No more callbacks.
I mean, just the power. It shows the power. Again, I hate to use this. The power of the Force.
Yeah,
it's kind of like when Yoda lifted really the X-wing up.
Vader, yeah, Vader can do. There is an interesting scene here where, Han and Leia are discussing, Vader's lifting the AT-AT up, and Leia's like, he's using the Force, and Han says, that's not possible, which is kind of funny, because this is Han's, first, real...
yeah, he called it, blue, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a quote from the movie.
A hokey religion.
Hokey religions and ancient superstitions are no match for a good blaster by your side, kid. Yeah, so he...
3PO learned otherwise.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that he's, we're kind of seeing Han maybe come around a little bit here. I don't know. He's at least seeing something he doesn't understand.
And for some reason, Darth Vader's a female in this comic. I can't figure out why.
Why?
But they just made her a female Darth Vader just to do so. Good job, Marvel. Good job.
Are you I know you referenced our earlier conversation, right?
I'm just kidding.
Okay. So I was trying to look and see.
For a minute there, I was like, "Is the art look female?" Like I thought you were.
He has a skirt under his cape. What?
Always had
I
that
know.
skirt. Okay.
But when I was a kid, like I got this 1/6 scale like Kenner Darth Vader, and I'd always just had the ones with the cape, the little 3 3/4 Vader's Power of the Force. And when I saw he had that skirt, I was like, "Oh, okay, it makes sense, Jedi kind of robe type deal here." But I didn't the tunic. I guess
they made him really. They made him really nerdy. He's like a mouth breather in this.
Yeah.
So,
well, this is joking aside, I really love this part. All right, Vader is unmasked during all the destruction here, and a stormtrooper comes up beside him, is kind of grossed out by by the burns, and as he pulls his helmet back, he twists the neck of the stormtrooper, complete 360, snapping it.
Rough scene. Pretty cool stuff. So it's good issue. Once again, I think it's strong here. It's a strong story, and
if I would rate both of them 5 out of 5. I'd go epic on both. But again, like Andrew said, I want it'd be interesting.
Right now, we're only seeing part of the story.
Absolutely. So I think that about wraps things up for the week. Jerry Reed, where can we find more of your stuff on the internet?
Continue to check me out at Action Figure Barbecue. It's actually spelled out BARBECUE.blogspot.com, where I try to review a lot of action figures, and I review. Some weeks I'll go and review a figure a day. So,
what about you, Andrew Stokes?
You can follow me at Twitter. At Cries Juggernaut, CRIES Juggernaut. I actually do like to. I was going to do it today, but we didn't do it. I like to tweet out when we're going to go see a movie that we're going to record a podcast on. So if you're interested in that, you can follow me. And I'm not going to fill up your feed because that would be basically the only thing I tweet out. You can also find my articles at the Epic Review. That's thepicreview.com. You can check out my article there. And Brad, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at the Real Brad Bell, REEL Brad Bell. As far as the Epic Review stuff, I've really just been posting the podcast, so been kind of busy. Had to get a new car this week.
Watching Agents of Smash.
I watched one episode of that I found time to watch earlier today.
Busy man.
But yeah, I mean, we're the home of the podcast, and of course, we're the companion podcast to Jerry's very active site, Toy Action Figure Barbecue at .blogspot.com. Yeah, I got it right.
The Activist.
The Activist.
My site. You said it's the most active, and I said it's the Activist.
It is the most active.
That was the best joke.
But yeah,
it was kind of a 300 reference.
You guys are listening to the podcast. We appreciate it. And for episode 36 of the Confirmed Epic podcast, we are out.